So Barack Obama wheeled out this new message today. It's the same as their old message, right? Every crisis is an opportunity. Every bad situation is just an indicator that we need to remake the system completely. So Barack Obama gave a speech over the weekend to people who are graduating from college and was widely praised by the media for doing so because Obama could fart and the media would praise him for it. His farts smell like roses, according to the members of CNN's editorial board. So Barack Obama gave this speech, and his speech included, I don't know why in the middle of a graduation he would do this, but apparently it's a very unifying thing. It's very unifying to say that the leadership of the country sucks when you're the ex-president. The man has Jimmy Carter syndrome. It is kind of amazing, by the way. You notice how Republican presidents, I don't think Trump will do this, but every other Republican president basically went away after they were president. Reagan stopped talking. HW didn't talk. W didn't talk. It was like, okay, we're done. Now my job is over. Not Barack Obama, right? Obama's out there and he is jabbering up a storm because he has to defend his legacy against President Trump, he thinks. Okay, so President Obama gives this speech to graduates and he lays out the Democratic program. Program number 1, he's going to yell at Trump about how Trump sucks. Program number 2, this COVID-19 shows that America needs fundamental change. Weird, because I thought that when he came onto the scene, we got the fundamental change, right? Turns out there's never change fundamental enough for the left because in the left-wing worldview, any inequality is an inequity, meaning anything that is unequal in life is not about the fact that people are not actually equal in all of their capacities and all of their skill sets. I am short. I'm not going to be playing in the NBA. I have no jump shot. I can't dunk, right? But apparently that's inequity. That's some sort of unfairness. So everything in America is about unfairness. It is not about the fact that any statistical division you draw in American society is going to include inequality. So if that is your viewpoint, then the only indicator that you have reached fairness is when everybody ends up with exactly the same results, basically no matter what they do. You take the decision-making out of the process. So that means that it is perpetual revolution on the left. It means it doesn't matter if Obama fundamentally transformed America. Doesn't matter. Not fundamental enough. It's never fundamental enough. We never reached that utopia. Okay, so Barack Obama said 2 things. 1, he ripped into Trump. 2, he suggested that COVID-19 shows systemic racism. Okay, it doesn't matter that we are expending extraordinary resources for all Americans so they can get the treatment that they need. No, this is really about how America has a legacy. Somehow, the death rates from COVID-19 are evidence of Jim Crow and slavery, which, again, I guess in a certain sense is true, but only in the sense that all history is contingent, meaning that all history leads to other things happening in the future. If Adam and Eve hadn't eaten from the apple tree, then presumably fewer people would be dying of COVID-19 right now. That's not a supremely helpful analysis of the current situation when it comes to policy on the ground. Here's Barack Obama making the fundamental case for transformation of American society, which is now being picked up by Joe Biden as well.
More than anything, this pandemic has finally torn back the curtain on the idea that so many of the folks in charge know what they're doing. A lot of them aren't even pretending to be in charge. If the world's going to get better, it's going to be up to you. With everything suddenly feeling like it's up for grabs, this is your time to seize the initiative.
Okay, weird. So you're going to seize the That's very odd because what I've been told by people like Obama is that if he were in charge, then we could all just listen to him. But since Trump is in charge, you should use your own individual judgment. As opposed to me, where I say, like, I don't care who's in charge, you should use your individual judgment. You notice how this works? When a Democrat is in charge, pay attention to authority. When a Democrat is not in charge, it's up to you, America. Okay, then Obama gets to his real point. And his real point is that America is fundamentally unequal and evil and terrible, and the 1619 Project is right. This is the message that Obama's pushing here.
A disease like this just spotlights the underlying inequalities and extra burdens that Black communities have historically had to deal with in this country. We see it in the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on our communities, just as we see it when a Black man goes for a jog and some folks feel like they can stop and question and shoot him if he doesn't submit to their questioning. Injustice like this isn't new.
Okay, that's insane. Okay, what he is saying right now is totally insane. The reason that is totally insane is, first of all, if you're going to differentiate how COVID-19 is affecting populations, you'd have to first figure out a couple of things. One, people who are obese and have diabetes and have pre-existing conditions. This is more prevalent in minority communities than it is in the white community. That is just a statistical truth. Okay, that has nothing to do with race. That has everything to do with eating habits and the kind of food people have access to and all of that kind of stuff. Two, are people actually socially distancing? Do people live in intergenerational households? Right? A lot of people who are white tend not to live as much with grandma. A lot of people in the minority communities, in Hispanic communities, for example, have lots of cross-generational pollination. This is also true in the Black community. That's not a bad thing. That's not a rip. I think it's actually quite a good thing in many ways. But it does mean that you are more susceptible to passing on COVID-19 to other people. Right? So you have to take all of these into account. That does not mean that some inequity has taken place. You'd have to actually filter out all of the different decision-making variables. But according to Obama, if black people are hit harder by COVID-19 statistically, that means that America is racist, and this can always be attributed to Jim Crow. He doesn't even have to bother to do the statistical analysis and figure out how much of this is due to inequity. He can just immediately cite inequality. And he can then connect it to another case where it is not clear that the driving factor was racism, the Ahmaud Arbery case. Right? So the Ahmaud Arbery case is an awful, awful case. We talked about this at length the day after this broke in the news, like big. We talked about the fact that I think that those guys should be prosecuted, that you don't have the ability to chase down somebody and basically hold them at gunpoint for a non-crime. That is not something you can do. However, we do not have evidence at this point that the incident was driven by race primarily, as opposed to being driven by vigilantism, by the people who are actually doing this thing, and driven by an insider corrupt deal, basically, between the DA in that area and the ex-cop who committed the shooting along with his son. Right? So Obama, I mean, this is why Obama's demagoguery is really so dangerous. When Trump is demagoguing, he just says something dumb, right? Just something ridiculous. Like he'll just say like Joe Scarborough is off killing interns or something, right? He'll just say something where we can immediately be like, God, come on. Obama tries to create a superstructure of extraordinarily radical claims on top of very thin reeds, and then wait for the media to bolster him. So he will say things like the Ahmaud Arbery. So look, what he did in that clip is pretty incredible. He said the Ahmaud Arbery shooting is about racism. Again, we don't know that it's about racism because we don't know the background of the guys who committed the shooting. Do they have all sorts of racist texts? Do they have racist background? Was this done specifically because they saw a black guy? Or is it because somebody in their neighborhood said somebody's burglarizing a house? And they were like, okay, well, whatever, man. I'm a vigilante and we've had this before. And by the way, still criminal, still bad. They should still go to jail. But we don't know the answer to that yet. So he takes a case where not all of the facts are known. He immediately attributes it to deep-seated American racism. Then he connects that to another issue where it is not clear that racism is the deciding factor. Again, is the suggestion that our medical professionals are racist? Is the suggestion that our federal and state governments all across the nation, that the New York government, Bill de Blasio, has seen wildly disproportionate cases of black people dying as opposed to white people? Is Bill de Blasio and the city government of New York racist? And Bill de Blasio is like a full-blown communist. So you're going to have to explain that. Hey, but he doesn't bother to explain it. The entire program is about, again, America has inequalities, therefore America is bad, and therefore America needs to be fundamentally transformed. And this is where Obama and Bernie were on exactly the same page. Obama is just more subtle about how he goes about this, right? Bernie will just say, America's terrible. America's a terrible place filled with capitalism and brutality and viciousness, and we need to transform it into a socialist utopia. And so, but Obama is soft Bernie. Right? He just lets get there gradually. Bernie is hard Bernie. Bernie is like, give me Putin and communism. Obama still says that he likes the free market. Maybe he does, in a very limited fashion, heavily regulated fashion, the same way Elizabeth Warren likes the free market. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.